Hey everyone, this is Alex or PolymomoTea, and today I have a video showing how to make these cute little Minecraft mobs out of polymer clay and resin. It is mostly resin, so I hope you all enjoyed. So first we're going to start with the easiest one, which is a slime. So I'm going to take some clay and I'm going to cut out a little cube. And then I made a second cube that is much bigger. And it's about twice as big as the small one. So next we're going to bake them and make a silicone mold. I use SORTA CLEAR 12. And we're going to start by making two different types of green. So I made a really dark green for the center, and I added some of that dark green color into some white resin to make a lighter green, and that'll be for the outer layer. And I'm adding the dark green layer into my small mold and letting that cure. Next I'm going to take some black clay and I'm going to flatten it out, and we're going to cut out little strips for the eyes. So I'm cutting it into small rectangles. And we're going to wrap those strips along the corner of our cube template and bake that. And once baked, we're just going to slowly peel it off with our polymer clay blade. I added a little bit of resin onto one side of our green cube and added our little eyes. And add a little square for the mouth. Let that cure. Next we're going to add a thin layer of light green resin and cure that for the bottom layer. Then we're going to add some more of the light green resin and add in our little slime. And I forgot I had to fill the top of the mold with some more light green resin. And once we have that, we're just going to take it out of our mold. And then we're going to give it a layer of glaze, and the slime is so cute and perfect. I love it. It's so adorable. And it's tiny. It's very, very tiny. Next, we're going to take our template and we're going to cut out a rectangle shape because we're going to make our squid. So we have two different squid varieties in this video. So we're going to start with the regular squid. And then we're going to flatten it out a little bit thinner because we're going to cut out little rectangular columns, and these will be for the tentacles. And to be honest, I don't know if the Minecraft squid has 10 tentacles or 8, but I'm only making 8 because I could only fit 8 onto the squid. Then once baked, we're going to make our silicone mold. So this squid has some derpy eyes, so we're going to take some white clay and roll it out flat. We're going to cut out a little square. And then for the pupil, we're going to add a little black square about 1/4 the size of the white one. Then for the squid, we're going to take some resin and make some dark black pigment. And we're going to fill in our tentacles with the dark pigment and scrape off the excess. And repeat that process 2 times. And with that dark resin, we're going to outline the square rectangular part of the mold and let that cure. And we're going to do that in every little corner. And then we're going to add a layer of resin on the bottom layer and add in our 2 derpy eyes. Make sure you get the directions correct. Then I'm just going to fill in the mold with some lighter black resin. Let that cure, and then make a final black outline in the back. Cure that. And here we have our squid body. Then I'm adding some glue on the bottom, and we're going to add in our legs. So I added 4 in the corner. It looks like a chair. And then 4 between them. So I could fit a total of 8 legs onto the squid. And then we're going to use our resin to glaze it. And here it is. I think the dark black outline really worked out in this project, so I'm super happy. So next I'm gonna make a pearly peacock kind of color because we're gonna make the glow squid. So I'm adding some Pearl X powder this time. And I thought it was kind of too light, so I added a bunch of glitters to make it extra glowy, I guess. It doesn't actually glow. And we're gonna do the same thing where we outline the corners. Let that cure, and then do the sides as well. Then to make the little design, we're going to take some mint clay and we're just going to cut out different sizes of squares. So I made some little squares and some slightly bigger squares. I'm adding a layer of clear resin and I'm going to use that to attach our little squares and put them in different designs. I try to be as accurate to the original as possible, but it's really hard to get the squares to be in the correct position without them slipping and sliding. And I fill the rest of it with a lighter pearly resin mixture. And I cured that and outlined it on the back again. And I added in the final design for the top. And once cured, I took it out of my mold. And I think it turned out pretty good. You can kind of see the difference. Now for the legs, it's like two different colors. So I just made a mixture of green glitters with resin. And I put that on like maybe like a third of the tip. And then I added the dark pearly glittery mixture on the other 2/3 and let that cure. And I didn't show it, but I did cut these at a slight slant. So when I added it to the body, it would kind of stick out because I wanted it to be a different pose. And see, I could only fit 8. I really don't know if they have 8 or 10 legs. And once we finished, we added a layer of glaze. And here is the finished glow squid. And I think it turned out even better than the regular squid. I think this tentacle pose is much better. Next, we're gonna make the Enderman. So we're gonna take our clay and cut out a square shape for the head. Then for the body, we're just gonna do a thinner like slice of clay and cut out like a rectangular shape and place that onto the head. For the arms and legs, we're gonna cut out 2 rectangular strips, just like we did for the squid's tentacles, and bake that. And make our silicone mold. Then for the eyes, we're going to cut out a white rectangular shape and a pink square in the middle. And then on one side, we're going to add our resin and add in our 2 eyes. Make sure it's like flat with like the flat part of the body. And then we're going to fill it up with our black resin that we used before. And cure and take that out of our mold. Just don't make eye contact with an Enderman. So then for the arms and legs, we're going to take our black resin and fill that up and scrape the excess. I added 2 legs on the bottom, let that cure. And then 2 arms on the side and let that cure. And a glaze of UV resin. And here is our not so scary Enderman. So much more relaxing to look at than in the game. So for the 5th mob, we're gonna create the creeper. So we're gonna take our clay and cut out a square for the head. Then for the body, we're gonna make it slightly thinner than the head and cut out a rectangular shape. And then 2 small rectangular strips for the legs. Then we're gonna put our body onto the head. And our little rectangular logs for the feet. Once baked, we're gonna make our little mold and demold that. Then we're gonna take some black clay to make the eyes. So eyes are just little squares, pretty easy. The mouth is just a series of rectangles, so 2 thin rectangles and 1 thicker rectangle in the middle, and the thinner rectangles just go slightly lower. Pretty easy. Then we're going to take our UV resin and place that onto our mold and put our rectangular mouth on the bottom and our square eyes. Let that cure. And then we're going to make our creeper mixture. So I added some dark green glitters along with some silver glitters because it has a really cool pixely effect. I thought glitters will do the job. And then I added some green pigment. And we're just going to fill that into our mold. And honestly, I'm so happy with this color. I don't know if you all think that, but I am so content. Now once we take that out of the mold, it looks amazing. And I added some resin on the bottom to add these little dark green stripes. Originally I wanted to put them inside the mold, but I couldn't reach the feet. And then I did it for both of the legs and gave it a layer of UV resin for the glaze. And look how clearly you can see the face. And here is our little creeper. It's so perfect. The shape is amazing. And finally, we're going to do the shulker box. So I took some clay and I flattened it out. And I have this little silicone square. It's just a mold that I cut up into a square shape. And I'm going to wrap it around with the clay. And once I wrap it around, I'm just going to cut off the excess and just kind of push it together so it's a nice cube shape. I know it's a perfect cube all of a sudden, right? And then we're going to take our blade and we're just going to cut the corners and add some rectangles on top with our blade. And then we're just going to let that bake in that state. And we're also going to cut out a small little square because the shulker is like a clam-like creature. And once it's baked, I'm just going to recut the lines with a sharper blade, trying to be careful not to break it, but I did crack it a little bit. And we're just going over the lines again. And slowly we're going to take it apart and we have the shulker shape. Now it's not like perfectly square, so I took out the silicone mold and using a little file, I kind of sanded it down to make it like more straight lines. And it looks much better after sanding it down. After that, I made a silicone mold and I carefully demolded it. The shell of one side did crack, but it's okay. We just have to have a nice mold, so that doesn't matter. For the shell, we're just gonna take some resin and make a purple mixture. And pour that into our mold, making sure that we get in every part of the little like nooks and crannies of it. And carefully demolding that once cured. And the bottom side had kind of like a little indent, so I gave it some resin for doming effect. And some extra clay details. We're gonna take some beige clay and cut out a little square, the same size as our little cube that we made before. And then we're gonna make the eyes, so we flattened out some beige clay, put some white and black next to it, and we're just gonna cut it into a tiny little square, and these will be for the eyes. For the shulker center part, we're gonna make a light yellow resin mixture, and we're gonna add a thin layer on the bottom and let that cure. And another layer of resin so we can add in our little beige square, and then we're gonna add in our eyes on the side and fill it up with some yellow resin and let that cure. And here we have our little shulker pearl or whatever it's supposed to be. And then using one of our like leg molds, I just put some clear resin in there because the shulker is kind of like in the middle floating. So we're gonna use that to add it to the top and bottom of our little shulker, and we're gonna attach it to our shells. So we attach it to the bottom and let that cure. And it looks like it's floating. I'd say it's working out pretty good. Next, I'm just glazing the center part of the shulker. Once that's cured, We're gonna add the other clear part of the shulker on top, add a little dab of resin, and stick on the top part of the shell. Let that cure. And then we're going to add a little bit of glaze to the shell. And here is our finished shulker. It did become a little bit more puffier, but the mold itself was puffy to begin with. But I'm super happy with how it turned out. So now we're just gonna show a montage of all the mobs. Here's the slime. I love slime. Anything that looks like this is definitely my favorite. But then we have the creeper. I think creeper is #1 in my heart because the shape and the color and the glitter works. Here we have our not so scary Enderman. One of its eyes is a little bit tilted, but it's okay. I actually made multiple Enderman, couldn't fix it. We have our derp squid. I love the body effect. Don't really love the legs as much, but it works. Then we have our glow squid. I really love the glitter effect and the legs, so I love this one a lot. And then we have our shulker, and the effect came out as I intended, so I am so happy with it. So I hope you all enjoyed this video. Thank you all for watching, and let me know which mob you like the best. Catch you all next time. Thank you.